Welcome back to the Unfiltered podcast. You know, we share real, raw, and inspiring stories of navigating life, career with courage, faith, and authenticity. I'm your host today, as always, Ibiyemi Fashipe, and today's guest is someone that truly embodies turning pain into purpose. Make sure you stick around because Veronica Yusuf is a career transition coach in the UK. She's also the founder of Sterling Tech Solutions, and she's a woman that has actually walked through the seasons of challenges, growth, and rebuilding. And she has turned all of that into a platform that helps people. Now, Veronica, it's such a joy to have you on the podcast today. Welcome to the podcast.
Thank you very much, and it's great to be here. Thanks for having me, BME.
Yeah, thank you so much. Okay, so let's jump right into it. I'm sure our guests they are waiting, like our audience, they're waiting and they want to hear that pain to purpose story. So,
Mm.
for those meeting you for the very first time, how would you describe Veronica beyond the founder, the coach, the LinkedIn profile? Who would you say you are?
That's a very good one. So, Veronica, I am very passionate about everything really that I find myself doing. So, I'm a mum of three, and I'm a woman of faith. And I have been through ups and downs, which hopefully we'll be able to unpack shortly. But I would say I'm just somebody who's very driven, and I like to win as best as I can. But I'll say again, my foundation is being a woman of faith, and that of course has impacted everything that I do, and that where I draw my strength from is just because of the faith that I have a faith in God. So I would say outside of being a founder, outside of being a coach, I'm just your girl next door, a mother of three teenagers, and I believe I have a calling. And that, of course, kind of touches on everything that I do. I'm passionate about helping people. I just want to be able to give back, especially women, to really challenge and encourage women, maybe women who are maybe within the marginalized communities, if you like, or categories, and just to say to them that, you know what, you can do it. Anything is possible. And I love to say that, and I'll leave it there.
Hmm, I really, really love that. I don't know what's happening, but the last two conversations I've had,
Mm,
both women, they were so strong on their faith, and I love
mm,
that because I am also so strong on my faith. So we all
mm.
know that,
Yeah,
with everything we're doing, we need God to help us to navigate through life. So I really,
definitely,
really love that. Thank you
definitely.
so much, Veronica. Okay, so now let's go into some of the work you're doing because you've built a platform that helps people to break into tech, to thrive.
Yeah.
And what would you say inspired you to set up that platform? And was there any moment where you thought that this is what I'm called to do?
Yeah, sure. So what my story is, I would say that was kind of what inspired me. My story of being an immigrant from Africa, particularly Nigeria, coming into the UK to do a master's, a postgraduate, master's degree in the UK here in strategic human resource management. Now, when I decided to embark on that, I felt like, okay, I knew that that was the next step for me career wise. Well, I was thinking about career advancement, and I thought I'll do a master's abroad and then see how you go from there. And I would say that it wasn't, it wasn't as smooth or a linear progression, as it were. So coming into the UK, then of course I was a young woman, not married, but eventually I met my husband and started having a family. And I really wanted to get into HR in the UK, but it was absolutely, I would say, almost impossible because there were a few things I didn't consider. I didn't know about things like familiarity and knowledge about the UK employment law and a few of these things that were particular. And so I kept getting, oh, you need UK experience in this regard and all of that. cutting the long story short, I did try to get into HR, got a few interviews here and there, but it was difficult. And then at this time, my family, I had a young family. I said I had my first child,
Mm,
and I wanted, a balance. I wanted, something that I could do whilst also, growing my family and stuff like that. But the role that I got, at least one role that looked, I mean, it's close to what I was expecting. It wasn't like 100% what I was hoping with someone who has paid so much and done strategic human resource management. You thought I would be at the top level, but then it was more like starting at the bottom of HR. But again, what kind of made things a bit uncomfortable for me was just because they weren't ready to give me the balance I was looking for, all the things I asked, and it was more like, oh no, we can't do that. And I attended, I think I went for maybe a few weeks, and I just said, no, this isn't what I wanted. And then my search continued to say, I'm sure there is more. Coming to the UK, the people around us were doing menial jobs, cleaning the streets, working in McDonald's, working in all these places, doing care. I'm not saying there's anything particularly wrong with them, but if you're doing that because you're settling and you don't think that there's anything better, you don't deserve better, then you need to stand, pause and think again. So everyone around us were like, oh, when you come from Nigeria, is it that you're going to the factory, you're working here and all of that? And I said I wasn't going to do that. So I mean, fortunately for me then, at least I went into customer service with O2. So I was in the contact center and I was doing that. But then I knew there was more. I knew I could do better. I wanted more. And so I carried on researching, asking and talking to people. And people said, someone was another woman said, have you thought of a career change into tech? And I said, what is that? Because I didn't know. That's why the way the information and the people that you surround yourself, that's why community, and networking is important in everybody's life. And so that kind of changed and moved the needle. It took me a long time, and I started researching and eventually found out that, okay, with my business degree, I could actually get into business analysis.
mm,
And I started. So, cutting that long story short, it wasn't like very easy, but I was determined and I did a lot of certifications. I got on a boot camp. As a mom, I was trying to juggle everything. And eventually I got into this. And then I thought, like, wow, are you kidding? You mean I can earn this much without putting in so much? And I was able to get that balance. And so I started telling other people because that's the kind of person I am. I don't keep anything that I think is good, I want to share.
you don't
And
get keep.
no, I don't gatekeep. I don't. So I
Yeah.
started telling other women, saying you don't have to do this and all of that. So I did that and I was helping people for free. I wasn't charging anything. And I'm sure I must have helped close to 20 or so people at the time. And someone said, you have something here, why don't you, develop this? And that's how I started looking into it more. And then I started building a platform. And so it was really from my story, from the transformation that I experienced, I wanted to be able to share that. And that was what inspired the platform that we have built today.
Oh, wow.
Thank you.
This is the real reason why we have Unfiltered podcasts, because
Wow.
there's a lot of people, they don't really know the journey,
Hmm.
and we are here to help people share that story that they would ordinarily not share every day
Yeah.
or everywhere.
Yeah.
So I know that there's someone listening and is thinking, because I noted a lot of things that you said about community, about having the right set of people around you,
Yes.
about having knowledge, because
Mm.
knowledge is power. So
It
many
is.
people are stuck
Yep.
truly because they don't know. You said something
Mhm.
about you didn't know what was tech. I never knew that you could move.
Exactly.
I never knew you could move from back home. We
Uh-huh.
were both from Nigeria, and I never knew
Yeah.
you could move from Nigeria and
Yeah.
literally get
Yeah.
into tech.
Yeah,
I never knew.
exactly. Yeah. I thought you'd have to learn to code and all of those things. And yeah,
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 yeah.
exactly. Yeah.
I had a conversation with a lady, she's from Congo,
Okay.
and she was on our last episode on the
Okay.
Unfiltered podcast. So everyone go check that out.
Okay.
She's not the traditional immigrant because she's like a
Oh,
first generation immigrant. But
ah,
she also said the same thing about her moving into project management,
hmm.
and she never knew she could do it.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it's really amazing. You
Mm.
talked about community, and shout
Yeah.
out to the communities that we belong to, because
Yeah.
we're both in two communities. So shout out to
Yeah.
Gomel and Karika
Yes.
Republic.
Yes.
And also, when you're starting and you recently move into a new country, can be the UK, the US,
Hmm.
Canada,
Yeah.
you don't necessarily have to start from the
Yeah.
factory. You don't have to
Exactly.
make the mistakes that a lot of us, like
Yeah.
me, we
Yeah.
made,
Yeah.
starting because people say this is what you
That
can
is
do.
it. Yeah.
We have
Exactly.
to break the stereotype.
Exactly.
And I'm
Yeah.
so grateful that you pushed yourself and said, you know
Yes.
what? I'm not doing that. There's
Yeah.
more inside
There's
of you.
more. There's more. Yeah, definitely.
Well done, well done. Okay,
Mhm.
so let's move on to another question. And this is where we get to the emotional bits, because
Yes.
you shared something with me about
Yes.
I think it was your son,
My
isn't it?
son. Yeah, my son. Yeah.
Yeah,
The youngest. Yeah.
he's the youngest. So I know there's so many people, because
Mm.
I've seen that a lot of people are going through this, and I'm sure that your journey would be able to tell them that it is not the end. So you
Mm.
shared that your path hasn't been linear, and
Yeah.
there was a point in your life where you had to take a step back, focus on your
Hmm.
family. You had a son that has special needs.
Yeah.
And can you just take us into that season, what it was like for you as a mother
Yeah.
and a professional that had more to
Yeah.
give? And how did that shape your perspective on life, success,
Mm.
and even leadership?
Amazing. Right. Okay. So this is one I also enjoy. Well, I wouldn't say whether the word is enjoy, but I like to share each time I have an opportunity because being somebody in the space that I'm in, where we find a lot of women, either, maybe fellow immigrants or women in general who have goals, especially with regards to their career, business, and just advancement in life as a whole, but feel because they start a family or they have children, then they would need to, compromise on these goals which they had. So in my story, I did say that when I decided I wanted more, I thought, okay, my dad had studied in the UK. My youngest brother was born here, and it just made sense that, oh yeah, come to the UK and stuff. My father is late now. Let's see.
Mm,
But yeah, so again, I had all these amazing goals I wanted to achieve. I was like, the sky, I can't even see the sky. I'm gonna just go, and just break through. But and so I decided to take that step, and I got here, started having a family. I had two girls without any issues. They were just, yeah, okay, fine, no issues at all. Then I felt pregnant for my third, which was my son. Was a very difficult pregnancy from the get-go, because now once you're getting into your 30s, it was late. Yeah, so it was the pregnancy in itself was very, very difficult. We're in and out of hospital
mm,
a lot. And but even whilst going through all the scans and everything, it wasn't really picked up that he was going to have any disabilities, which again is another story for another day. But eventually, I think when it was, I was 27 weeks. Yes, I think. Yeah, that was when they started picking up. I was very huge, what they call a high Leica volume, so too much water at the
mm,
time. And so, I was, I was going through series of tests. And then when it was now 3 weeks to my due date, I was admitted into hospital because they didn't want to take any chances. So it had been difficult, and I had a young family, bless my husband, who was very supportive, managing the other two because they were still little. And then my mom lives in the UK, so she was there. So cutting that long story short, eventually we had my son by elective CS. And from the day he was born, I didn't see my son until 10 days
wow.
after. Yeah, because I don't want to go into too much detail, but he was born, with a lot of complexities. So he had to go straight into the ICU. And I cried every day, cried every
Mm,
day, cried every day. When am I going to see him? When I'm going to hold him? And I was even well in myself. because it was all the complications. So just to cut the long story short, eventually 10 days, I was able to go into the ICU. I was wheeled into the ICU, still in a wheelchair, to see my son. I saw him just in that little what you call it, and I just was I was just emotional because I was like, what happened when they now said, oh, he has a low, what you call a compromised septum, where something to do with his breathing, and that
Mm.
was why he had to be admitted and all of that. But eventually, we were told he would need to have what you call a tracheostomy tube in his trachea to for him to breathe, because he couldn't breathe on his own. So that
Wow.
was, yeah. And eventually, that by 10 days, they had to operate on that child. So where you different surgeries, in his lifetime. But and so we spent 6 months in the hospital. So imagine we couldn't go home after we had him, because we had that tube. They had to train us and all of that. But let me just even cut that story short. And eventually, we're now able to take him home. But again, it was not easy because we had to learn how to look after him with the, this with all the complications. So that
Mm.
was difficult. And so career was the last thing on my mind.
On your mind, because it was like a
A
new life, basically.
a new
Yeah.
phase altogether. So, and that was all that we were focusing on. My husband would try to go to work as he could, because the bills will not stop coming in. So we couldn't just say, okay, we'll stop, both of us. But for me, thinking about career, thinking about work was the last thing. And so that journey, went on, and we I think for close to 2.5 years I didn't work.
Mm.
I was at home looking after my son, learning how to look after a child with special needs, not sure what to expect each day because it was very new to us. Our first two kids had no issues, so it was completely new. We had close to 15 specialists
Wow.
working with him, so it was a lot. It was full on. But eventually, so let me just even so that's something that we've lived with, but we thank God that we have seen positives. He didn't walk until he was 3.5, but he's walking, and a few other complexities which I don't really need to go into. But so the career had to take the back burner, and I had to pause on that, just to learn how to bring this child up, and not knowing what each day was going to bring was very
Mm.
difficult for us. And so, yeah, I didn't work, I was just at home. But eventually, when I started, I would say I was even maybe borderline depressed, because I was like, after all the dreams I had, and all that this happens, so is this it for me? Each time, we got to a point where my husband could start going back to work, and he's going in the morning. Maybe we've dropped the first two at nursery, and I'm just there by myself with my son, and I'm like, is this my life? Where's the purpose that I had, and all the goals and aspirations I had? So is this it? I would always ask. And but yeah, so for a long time I couldn't pick myself up. I just couldn't see the future. I couldn't see anything. But again, I didn't stay there. It took some time, I would say, but that's why I say I'm a woman of faith, because it was the grace of God that really helped me and kept me saying, okay, this is not the end of it. How can
Mm.
you navigate this? How can you move from this? How can you turn this pain around? And I learned a lot from that experience. Patience, I learned to trust God more. And then I
Mm.
learned to just see that, what, even if you have a challenge in life, there you can turn it into something of purpose. You can, and I believe that my experience has actually encouraged a lot of moms, a lot of people who feel like, oh, this is the end of the world. But I say to them, a lot of people do not even know when I tell them this journey and that I have it special. They're like, wow, really? You can never tell. But I said,
Yeah.
yeah, people say I can, they can't tell. Even people who know me and meet me and see me, they said, wow. Even the other day, I took my son to church and someone was like, I didn't know. Wow, well done. And I'm like, Are you always smiling? Are you always? I'm like, oh, because I've been through somewhere. So again,
Mm.
when things happen, it's to help us. We grow, we develop, we get stronger. And I think it was a point, I got to a point where I was like, this cannot be it. This cannot
Mm.
be it. There is a purpose for my life and for everything that happened. How do I navigate it? How do I get up? And then I said, you know what? I am done waking up and just remaining in my robe all day because I'm depressed, I'm not happy, and I want to get, and then I started researching, and I started reading. I started trying to say, okay, let me, dust my skills up. And I started developing myself again. I then started doing certifications. I remember there was a time I went, for one exam, and someone was like, "Are you sure you're meant to be here?" Because of the way they didn't expect, But eventually, I just told myself, "This is not it. This cannot be it." And
Mm.
so I started, getting my goals and all the things that I had planned back up, and I said, I'm going to break through this. And so I started getting, do certifications, and then started applying for jobs again. And that was actually, you know, like how I got into business analysis, because I was now asking, and that's how my career just picked up again. But then I then was like, okay, how can I even share and tell other people, other moms, that it's not impossible. It's okay to even take a break, but don't stay there. If you are someone that wants a career, because some people might say, oh, I just want to be a stay-at-home mom. I just want to be a mom. If that's what you want, that's fine. But if that's not what you want, then don't settle. So I found, I just told myself, I'm not going to settle, I'm going to get up. And then I started getting out there, got my BA for business analysis contract role. And then I just started, developing myself more and more, and it's been, upwards, since then. And so I tell anybody who comes to me and they're saying, oh, I really want a career, I really want to do this, but my child. Oh, but and I asked them, do you have a child with special needs? No.
Yeah.
Do you have any? Are those children normal and everything? I said, can I tell you my story? And they're like, you're joking. So some
Mm.
people listen and they're like, you? I'm like, yes, me. And I took almost 3 years of, a pause in my career, but I was able to pick myself up again. 30s,
Mm.
even for some people say I'm too old. I'm like, you're joking. So I tell them my story, and I'm like, I wasn't a spring chicken. I wasn't 21 or 22 when all of this
Mm.
happened, but I was able to flip it around, and I
Mm.
said, this is not going to define me. I'm going to
Absolutely.
push through. And when I eventually started, I got into senior management, and I will be the only Black woman in the room of senior managers, full of
Mm.
white male colleagues and stuff like that. And when I tell them that I have this thing at home, or I have this situation that I'm dealing with, people will just never know. So don't allow your pain and the challenges that you go through define you, and don't allow it make you halt or get stuck. Look for, how you can navigate it and see the purpose behind everything that has happened. So it has made me a stronger woman. It has made me, resilient, and I don't see impossibilities. I tell my
Mm.
children, I'm like, impossible doesn't exist,
Impossible
because
is nothing.
it is exactly. So for me, that story and my experience is one that I now use to tell people that, you know what, your pain should not make you stay stuck. Your pain should
Mm.
not define you. The challenges that you go through should not be the end of it. You can rise above it. So I hope I haven't
Mm.
gone too far into it. But yeah, that's the story really
Wow.
about that.
And for me, there is no excuse, because
Mm-hmm,
if you could come back
mm-hmm,
from
mm-hmm,
everything,
mm-hmm.
there's
Exactly.
nobody. People just give excuses.
Mm-hmm,
There's nobody that
mm-hmm.
cannot bounce back
No.
from any situation.
Yeah.
Wow. Well,
Yeah.
well done to you. Well done to
Thank
you.
you. Thank you
Well
very much.
done to you. Oh, that was so
That's a
emotional.
lot.
But then I
Yeah.
see you that went through it. You're
Mm-hmm.
smiling. I'm
Mm-hmm.
like, wow. That is
Mm.
strength. And I just pray
Mhm.
that God will continually give you strength,
Thank
even
you.
as you continue
Amen.
to navigate it, because I'm sure that you're still navigating
Oh
life
yes. Oh
with that,
yes. Oh
but you
yes.
find a way to still show up,
Yes.
show up for your people.
Yes.
You no, that's
Yeah.
no, well done to you. Well
Thank
done to
you.
you.
Thank you.
Okay, so if you're enjoying this conversation, like I am really enjoying this conversation, make sure you subscribe to the podcast on Spotify, Apple, and on YouTube. Follow us on Instagram on the Unfiltered Podcast with Ibiyemi, and also you can follow me at Ibiyemi Career Coach. Connect with me on LinkedIn at Ibiyemi Fashion. All the links will be in the show notes. If you're looking for clarity in your own career journey as well, free resources, you would find all of that in the show notes. Okay, back into the conversation. I just really need to get something else out of this because I want people that probably dealing with this same challenge right now. You
Mm.
know, there might be younger moms dealing with this, there might be older moms dealing with this, and that has been a major stumbling block in their own journey. So,
Yeah.
of course, you've already talked about how it wasn't easy. You had to step back,
Mm.
showing up in your robe every day, taking care
Mm.
of your baby and all
Mm.
that. But you turned that season into purpose. And
Mm.
obviously, the fruits are there for us to see today.
Mm.
So, in terms of the process, were there any moments that you thought if it would be possible to rebuild at all? And how did you push through that,
Mm. Mm.
that limiting belief?
Of course, there were moments where I doubted myself. I felt like an imposter. I
Yeah.
felt like, will anybody, am I actually even going? I mean, when I started looking, to get back into the corporate world, I felt like, oh, I've lost time and confidence. So that confidence was very key because I felt like, oh, if I carried on without this halt or this pause, I'm sure I would have been more confident. So I had times when I would, maybe have interviews, for example, and I would be nervous, like almost shaking, and just feeling like, oh, what if they don't, they almost like catch you out, like, you just feel that way because you feel like, oh, you're not enough, and so the confidence bit was very difficult. So people see me now and they're like, you have you ever struggled
Mhm.
with and I'm like, are you joking? So let me tell you a few things that I did, and I always share with
Absolutely.
people in my community. I said that when I started on the journey to becoming an IT business analyst, I'd done, I think I'd done maybe foundation in business analysis and Prince 2 and all of that, and then I think I joined a boot camp somewhere, and then the calls started coming. My husband has been in tech for several years. Got my CV, helped me to do it and get it done, put all the things in. I'm like, who's going to defend this? So anyway, we started putting the CV out, and I was getting calls. But I'm sure for about 3 or 4 weeks, I was ignoring the calls
Mm.
because I was doubting myself, because I didn't have the confidence, because I felt I wasn't enough. I felt I hadn't done enough. And my husband will say, what's the worst that can happen? They are just at the other side of the phone. They're not beside you. And even if they were, just take it. So it took a long time. And I share it a lot in my community. I'm like, those of you who are like, oh, confidence and all of that, I didn't pick it I wasn't born with it. But I one day told myself, okay, you've said that you're ready to get out there and all of that. Well, you've got to start from somewhere. And eventually I thought, okay, I'm going to start answering these calls. I stuttered, I stammered, I was shaking, I was sweating. The first one, the second one, the third one. But as I continued to push, I then was becoming a bit more confident. So I say to people, confidence comes with practice. So there are times when I'll have an interview, I will stand in front of the mirror and I'm talking, like I'm presenting. I record myself. And when I play it back, I'm like, oh, you're stuttering too much, or too many filler words, and I will redo it again. So I started having to practice, to build that confidence so that I could move from that phase of doubting myself. So it came with work. So working on yourself. People think this thing will be handed out to you on a platter of gold. No, but I was determined to get, something out of it. I was determined that I wanted more, so there was a price to pay. There was sacrifice to be done. I wanted my kids to go to private school. I love space. I wanted a nice big house. I wanted to be able to go on holidays. And I'm like, okay,
Mm.
nobody's going to give that to me. So you better get up,
Yeah.
start working. So I felt, yes, confidence was something, but it is practice. And I when I think of those days, I'm almost physically sick to tell you how I felt, but I just did not stay there. So I kept pushing. I kept practicing working on myself, watching videos, talking to people, trying to talk in public and all of that. So again, in summary, I had doubt. I had a lot of moments of doubts that, oh, what if, are you sure you're good enough? Are you sure you know enough? Are you sure this is even true? Are you sure this is really going to happen? And all of that. So that process took time, but what kept me going was my goal ahead. I felt that there was something that I had. There was something in me that almost, let's say, the world is waiting for. And also I talk about my why. I also say to people, what is your why? Why do you even want to break into this field? You must have a why. And for me, I knew I wanted something that would give me flexibility. I wanted to be there for my children. I have two girls, and I know bringing girls up, especially in this Western
Yeah.
world, you've got to be there. So it was my why and the fact that I knew there was purpose. There was something that I had to give. And so if I didn't push through, then the people who may be impacted by what I had would of course not get it. Plus, what I wanted to achieve, I wanted that life. I wanted a certain quality of life. And so these were the things that each time I felt nervous and I was doubting myself, it would propel me to say, hey, you've got a goal there. You've got your vision board. You've got your target that you've written. You've got to get up. So I had to sacrifice being comfortable and remaining in my comfort zone to say, okay, it's not very pretty. It's not, I would rather stay and not, feel that way. But I had to push through because of what I had planned, because of my goals. So I would say what really kept me was the goals that I had. And all the aspirations and things that I wanted to do, and my why more than anything. So each time I felt like, oh, I just want to sit back and stay in my comfort zone, I would say, right, okay, remember your why, remember what you want. You want to be able to do this, you want to be able to do that, and that will propel me. But the process was not easy. But again, it was really from determination and pushing myself. And I'm not saying that I've gotten there, because there's still a lot of
Mm.
things I want to do. So I say to people, if you get to a point where you're like, I've arrived, then you're a joke. So I haven't arrived. There's still a lot that I believe I want to do, I want to achieve. And these are the things that I call my why. And that is really what pushes me, even when I feel like I'm doubting. I don't want to show up because I just want to stay in bed.
Mm.
I'd rather stay in bed and not do anything. I'd
I
rather I'd
know.
rather sleep and watch a movie than, do those things. But when I remember, hey, you've got a target, you've got something that you want to do, that again makes me stand up and say, you got to keep showing up. Even when you feel like you don't have it complete, you don't have it all figured out, you put one foot in front of the other and things will begin to fall into place. So just using this as an example of something that happened recently. I've been looking to get into corporate, to have these sort of corporate contracts where people from my community can be placed in some of these organizations. And that has
Mm.
been very difficult for me because I didn't know how to go about it. I go for networking events, I talk to people where people make promises, and after the
Mm.
event, they don't come true. But I just kept showing up, I kept doing my thing and kept developing myself. I cannot say what I learned when I was trying to become a business analyst some years ago is all I have grown. I have,
Yeah.
upskilled. I have learned more. And recently I was talking about AI. I'm not an AI engineer. I'm not even no, but I started learning, I started picking up, and I started showing up and talking about it. And today I have two potential, what would I call it, partnership in the, in the works, where I'll be working with two corporate establishments, and I'm going to talk about careers in AI careers, yeah, with a university, and that was because I was showing up, even though I didn't feel like I knew everything. I'm not the most technical when it comes to AI. I can't tell you about those systems. I can't tell you about how those models work. But there is the bit that I know and I learned, and I started putting it out and started sharing that. And that's what was seen by one or two people, and they reached out to say, would like to work with you. So yeah, but, I mean, the point there is you don't have to have it all figured out. You don't have to have all the answers, but the little you know, I say that there is 1%. Well, people talk about 6 degrees of separation and whatnot. So you have that, even if you feel like I don't know everything, but you know something that maybe 1% of people do not know what you know. So that 1% might be the people that you can learn from you. So don't wait until you have the 100% knowledge and expertise and you feel like, okay, yes, I'm ready. I can target everybody. No, but there might be some things that that a segment of people do not know, and they will pay to listen to that knowledge or to get that
Mm,
knowledge that you have. And so that again is what propels me, even when I feel like, oh, I'm not an AI engineer. I don't know all of this. And sometimes I feel like, oh, what if I'm asked difficult questions? If I'm asked difficult questions, I will go and find them. I'll research. So that should not make me stay back, because I think, and I've seen that actually happen where people are like, oh, I didn't know that. And
mm,
in your head, you're like, oh, you thought everybody knew that. But I've been on workshops. I've been invited to do different, I was invited by the council in the West Midlands. I didn't know I was going to be talking to councillors. I was just called up to the podium and I was like, so I say, stay ready so that when an opportunity comes, you don't need to go and get ready because you are constantly developing yourself. And I was just invited. And as I ended, like, oh, let's welcome Veronica, standing
mhm,
there to talk to councillors and all of that. So I was
mm.
talking about these things. So I didn't know them, but you learn. So I think
Always
I
be
think
ready.
I've sent a lot already. But yeah,
No, no, no,
so I
it's
mean there have
it's
been tough moments, but you don't stay there. You don't stay there. You just have to find a way to navigate. Put
me.
into, come into
Mm.
play. Yeah.
No, this is really good. I hope
Thank you.
everyone listening, you've got your pen, you've
Yeah.
got your
A
notes, because
masterclass.
there's a lot to take out from here. Always stay ready, be relevant, keep
Yes.
expanding your knowledge. So you
Yes.
talked about how where you were when you started your first business analyst role. It's
Yes.
not where you are now today. So you've expanded.
Yes.
And obviously, that happens to a lot of us. If you want to keep being impactful, being
Yes.
able to help people in this very competitive job market of today,
Yeah.
you need to keep expanding your own knowledge.
Knowledge.
So
Yes.
you're pouring out the right knowledge to the next person.
Yes.
Wow, this has been a very good conversation. And
Mm.
as we wrap up, I just want to say, if there was one thing you've already said, this next question,
Yeah.
for me, you've already answered it. But if there was anything else you wanted to add, as you wrap up the conversation for today, some people
Mm.
might be listening, life has interrupted their plans,
Mm.
they maybe because of family, health,
Yeah.
unexpected challenges. It might even be a loss of a person.
Mm.
There's so many things that happen to people every day.
Mm.
And the fact that it doesn't touch some of us doesn't mean that it doesn't happen. It
Mm.
happens to real people.
Yep.
So what would you say to them about getting on top of their career goals and all that, and rebuilding even when it's hard,
Yeah.
but they have to definitely show up?
Yeah.
What would you say is that one or two thing that you just want to say, make sure you tap into this and you would definitely smile at the end?
Yeah. So one thing I say is don't discount or disregard challenges that happen and those seasons, right? They happen. I believe that there is always a purpose. There's always something that is the reason. But again, don't block it out. try to navigate, try to sit with it and understand, embrace it, but work through it. So if I was I use the word delusional about, oh yeah, this challenge, this happened to me, and I start saying, oh, it's not real or whatnot at the time, and I start maybe trying to even push at that time. I don't know what would have happened, but I embraced that challenging situation, that time, that phase. And I talked to a lot of young women, even in church, and I was talking to one person who said, oh, I have so many goals that I want to achieve in my career, but the kids and all of that. I said, embrace this one. And so maybe it might be a case of, I think using this particular example, she's brilliant, this particular person, and had been on a role at the time, and that role almost, she felt as if she felt stuck because she felt she had more to give. But for the family, she needed to remain in that role because her kids were young, and then her husband had something else that he had to accomplish. So you look at your personal situation, and today she's been able to get out of that situation, and right now working one of the big, I don't want to call the company names, and she's flying all over the world, and she looks back. I said, so remember that season where it seemed as if that was the end? It's never the end. So what you want to do is embrace it and try to get the positives out of it. But what you want to do is don't stay there, right? And don't just block it out. Work through it, see why it's happening, and see what you can get in terms of positives. But then make sure that you're not sitting down there, but you're now saying, okay, I think we've this season has gone. We've gone past the season. Let's move to the next one. How do we move to the next one? So your challenges, don't lie to yourself. They're there, they will happen, but what can you learn from it? Let it work for in your favor. Let it actually I mean, like what you said, turning pain to purpose. There might be a purpose
Mm.
behind it. So embrace it, learn from it, but don't stay there. That's the thing, just don't stay there. And you just want to say, okay, how can I get out of this thing? And another final note is, don't wait to figure it out because you never would. You would never get 100% like, oh, light bulb moment, 100%. I know how it's going to be before I go. Put one foot in front of the other. Movement attracts growth and success. So you must move, even if it's very small baby steps. Just make sure that you're moving. And I'll finish with that.
Love it, love it, love it. Thank you so very much, Veronica, for sharing it
Thank
feels like
you.
you've poured your heart
Yes.
into the conversation, your story, and there's a lot of wisdom in there as well. You shared everything with us.
Yeah.
Felt like we were reading the book of Proverbs.
Thank
It's such a
you.
reminder that even in seasons where
Yes.
we feel like there's setbacks, there
Yes.
is grace in there, there's growth
Yes.
in there. I'm
Yes.
sure if you look back at the years, at
Oh
when you
God.
took your
Wow.
time back and you're like, am I really here now?
Exactly.
You
How I'm
know,
like, how did we even get past that?
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
So yeah, it's true.
There's still so much more that I'm sure you would achieve. I'm sure there are
Yes.
many things that you would. I'm really looking forward to seeing you at the
Thank
top.
you. Thank you.
Yeah,
Thank you so
and
much.
just before we go,
Yes.
where can our listeners connect with you and learn more about your work?
Okay, I'm on LinkedIn, Veronica Yusuf. You would find me once you search. And then also on Instagram, the handle is Sterling Tech Career Coach. I believe we just changed that recently. Also on Facebook, we have a Facebook group called Careers into BA, PM, and Privacy. So that's a Facebook group. On Facebook, you find me as Veronica Dupe Yusuf. So I'm on Facebook, I'm on Instagram, and on LinkedIn. And we have a website, of course, sterlingtechsolutions.com.
Amazing, amazing. Thank you, Veronica. And
Yeah.
thank you to everyone that I know would listen to this. I'm sure there's a lot you can take out of it. It doesn't matter your journey, where you are at the moment.
Yes,
There is something for you, and that pain would definitely turn into purpose,
that's
because that's
right.
why we're here sharing the
Yes.
unfiltered stories.
So,
And don't forget to subscribe, share this episode with someone that you know is going through something
yeah,
and they need to show up, the messiness, the unfiltered, and
yeah,
let them know that there's hope and light at the end of the tunnel.
that's
Until
right.
next time, take care and stay hopeful that something would happen. And I wish you all the best. Thank you very much for tuning in today. Thanks, Veronica.
Thank you for having me.